You're listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racki, a podcast for entrepreneurs looking to scale. This episode is brought to you by Proposify, software that streamlines your proposal process, impresses clients, and helps you close more deals. Head to proposify.com to start your free trial today.
Hey everyone, this is the 72nd episode of the Biz Chat, where we share all of our knowledge as we try to scale a SaaS business. Joined with me today is Sir Racki Ferris, the Chief of Product.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
You're not nervous today, are you?
Oh, not at all.
We're just two guys having a conversation with big fuzzy mics in front of our face.
Very close to our face, that is correct.
We want to talk a little bit about product management. It's one of my favorite topics, and you know, even if you don't necessarily work on a product per se, maybe you don't work in a SaaS company, agencies I think should know about product management processes, especially if you have a client who's on a retainer and you're building, you're designing their website or their app or their digital product. Knowing more about product management processes, I think, can help anyone. So what I wanted to share with us today was kind of what we've been learning. You know, as we try to build processes and tools to scale, we always figure out what's not working and we try to improve it, but it's never done. Like even what we're going to talk about today will probably change in another month or two. But sharing where we're at today, I think, can help us. So, first of all, late last year, 2017, maybe like a month or two ago, we started to look at our processes because I guess here's the problem laid out. It's that, okay, we've got a team of developers and QA, we've got a designer, hopefully more joining us. If you're in the Halifax area and you're a senior product designer, please get in touch with us. We need one. But really, I think the problem sometimes is that we have so many tools that we use for different things. We started using Jira. We started using this great tool called Product Board. A lot of us use Basecamp for project management, but it's kind of like, when does it become too many tools? Who should be in what tool? When? What do you use for? Like, it can be chaos. So that's what we were trying to work out. So where do you think we should start?
Well, I could start with what we were doing. We were, for customer feedback and like management of the roadmap, was all done in Trello, which when you're smaller and there's less, little rocks in there, it's easier to manage, but we were growing and it became unmanageable. We had so many things in there and it was hard to prioritize them. It was just like it was like a waterfall of information when you got in there, so you couldn't really process anything. Mm-hmm. Therefore, transparency, was an attempt to be transparent, but ended up not being because you couldn't understand what was in there.
Mm-hmm. Talk about big rocks for a minute. People might not know what we mean. I think it's a powerful analogy if one hasn't heard of it.
Well, it goes to like you're able to carry one bucket of things for a period of time, and there's different ways of getting the most out of that bucket. And like the analogy is you put your big rocks in first, because when you add your small rocks, you'll just go around the big rocks to the bottom, and then you can add your sand, because you can always add sand after the other things are in. If you go and add all your little rocks first, you won't be able to fit the big ones in. Yeah. So we talk about doing big rocks. Do them first, plan them out first, and then fill the extra time and space with all the little rocks and the sand that are important. Yeah. But the big rocks are obviously the most important because they will project your company to the vision you have of it.
And I think that really is the core of what product management is about, because if you just leave a team of developers and QA alone and just work on the product without any direction, they're going to fix stuff. They're going to make stuff better. They're going to refactor code. They're going to put out little fires. But, a month goes by, a quarter goes by, a year goes by, the product hasn't been pushed into the future because there's nobody saying, here's something really important we need to do that's going to, push us into the future. And
you have to plan the wide-eyed features, and I call them wide-eyed features because when you deliver them, that your dev and QA team, their eyes get really big because you're like, oh my, like I may not have thought of that. Wow, that's a big thing. They see the purpose and the value in it, but it definitely it can be it's interesting. It's fun. I was actually talking with Jonathan today about showing him a new feature, and I said I want to videotape him when I present it to him just to see his wide-eyed reaction.
Don't tell him the camera's there, though.
No, I already did.
I should have set up a hidden camera. Now he won't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the problem becomes, I think most people who are listening to this probably know what Jira is. For the few that don't, it's basically an agile development project management tool. Mostly used for bugs and for QA and putting issue tracking. We started moving towards it. I think we were just using GitHub issues. And
it was GitHub and Basecamp because when we were in the last major push, there were just so many smaller items that putting them into Git didn't really make sense. So we were using checklists and Basecamp. Yeah. So there were 2 places to check, and it got overwhelming.
Yeah, Basecamp's good for like to-dos and checking off to-dos and adding notes, and then GitHub is more of like an actual bug tracker assigned to like Git commits and all that kind of stuff. But Jira really, we've avoided it for a long time because it is big and complicated. But I think the way the team's grown, we just needed to kind of move towards that. I think the developers prefer it too. Absolutely,
and Jonathan can definitely attest to the metrics that it can provide. It's more than just like a ticket tracking system. It's a team management system for development and QA.
Mm-hmm. So we started using that, but then I think where there was confusion and where I think this could maybe help people who are using Jira is at some point you go, okay, so is Jira everything now? Or do we use it for everything? Do the designers use it? And I think we quickly realized it's not great for that.
No, it's not. What Jira should be used for is active things that you want to be working on next week or are currently working on. Mm-hmm. It's not for mapping out what you want to do. You end up having a lot of tickets in there that will become stale, get lost. And then when you talk about actual tracking, you'll have a ticket that's open for 6 months. It looks bad for that squad or that team because they have all these tickets that they're not moving forward, but they can't move forward because they're not ready to be done yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like the mail, like that quote in Seinfeld where Newman's like, in the mail, it just never stops. It just keeps coming and coming. It's kind of like, bugs and issues for developers. You just see this like mountain of tickets that, they could never get done in a lifetime.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the mail is a good analogy because you want to have, for development, for each department, you want to have their ticket management system be mail that's addressed to them that they can open up and take action on. The way we started using it only for a little bit before we realized it wasn't going to work is we're putting mail addressed to product in their mail slot, and that causes problems, confusion.
Yeah. So we started using this great tool called Product Board, which I'm a huge fan of. You are too. And it's great for what it does because I don't think anybody, until now, I haven't seen any product management software that really nails it because I think it inherently tries to be a little bit too much Jira. But what product management is really about isn't so much the project management of getting things done and is it in progress and which release. It's the upfront research and vision planning. And Product Board does that really great, in particular because of a really tight integration with Intercom. So as your support agents and your customer success people are answering customer or having conversations in Intercom, they can tag something as a feature request, push that into Product Board without ever going into it, and then you get the fun job of, speaking of the mail never stopping, the insights board, which is basically customer feedback directly from their mouth, so to speak, that you can then go and start tagging and assigning to product features.
Yeah, and it goes much deeper than that too, because you can align it to your segments. You can set up your segments. You can set up your initiatives. Like, does this affect adoption? Does this affect satisfaction? And then you get a really good idea, like an actual idea of what people want for what reasons. Whereas if you're just managing a list in any list management software, you're not getting a true idea. There's a lot of gut involved, which Product Board goes towards removing the gut out of it.
Yeah.
There's no assumptions. Like if you see 30 tickets come in a week for a certain feature, you might want to look at that. You might not have thought of it was a big deal before.
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, look at all these votes coming up.
Yeah. And it's just great that it keeps it all there. Because I think, before we used to have a Trello board where people would put feedback, but number one, they would have to remember to go to Trello, log in, create a card for it. Many times there'd be duplicates, or there would be 5 of the same features, but they were just every support person described them differently.
Yep.
It's sort of like how they put out radio waves into the universe to in case aliens ever find it. You know what I mean? It's just lost. That's basically what customer feedback was just somebody would log it. Trello board was just a big giant grave to put support feedback and customer feedback that would never really get used.
And the cool part about product board is we considered having other people process the tickets as they come in, and decided not to. I process them all myself. Kyle does some himself, just because part of our job is to figure out what the future is. So the people processing should be part of that job.
Yeah.
So it's all in our head. So I'm reading all the tickets going in, and it really gives me a good view of what our customers are wanting and what friction they're facing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, and this is maybe feedback for product board, I think I'm going to get in touch with them and let them know when this airs so that they can listen to it. Because number one, it's a shout out for them. It's a great product, and I think it's fairly new, and I don't think they've been out that long, but it's a very, very good product. And you can tell that they're also listening to a lot of feedback and sending out surveys and wanting to hop on the phone to talk about it. Because I think where they're starting to figure it out is that they can't be Jira, and they shouldn't be. So all the stuff around roadmap planning and when things are released and what release name is, it's just not a good place to do that. And it kind of duplicates what Jira does.
Yes.
So I think where we got to was using product board is great as a research tool to look at customer feedback, process it mentally, and then make sure it doesn't get lost, that it actually gets if 20 customers ask for a feature in a slightly different way, all of that great feedback, direct quotes from them are going into that feature so that we can, somebody looks at it in product board, they can see what everybody's actually saying about it. Really useful for that. And then we started using the portal, which is kind of just basically saying what we're planning on doing, what we're not planning on doing. Great for internal. But then where does it go from there? So, okay, we want to plan this new feature. Let's say fields. We want to add custom fields and variables in Proposify.
So what do you do then? Well, there's an item in product board, and it happens to have 20-some conversations attached to it. Start reading through them. Don't come up with a solution before you've talked to all your customers and gotten their point of view.
Yeah.
So now we know we want to do this. We've got all this customer feedback. So what we did was we researched all of their asks, and then we defined a clear problem. We started with the problem, and this is something that we've battled with over, the growth of Proposify is getting married to solutions when we should be married to the problem and then provide a solution for the problem. Once you get a clear idea what the problem is, you can start working out solutions to the problem. And a good way to do that is instead of just going right to wireframes and going right to mockups, it's actually doing user journeys. What you think the experience for a user should be.
Right.
Where would they go to access this feature? How would they interact with this feature? And then once you have that, you can start reaching back out to these customers. And I just reach out right in Intercom and say, hey, you asked about this. So what is your issue? Okay, well, this is what we were thinking. Does this work for you? And then you get feedback, and you adjust your user stories and what your plan for the feature is.
Customers love that. When you include them in
I
the
love
process.
Customers. It's great. It's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great way to also build more brand loyalty with your customers too, is including them in the process. Because so often with a SaaS company, you think if you reach out to PayPal and say, I want this screen designed differently, are you going to really talk to anybody and have them actually see your feedback come to fruition? Probably not.
Probably not.
No knock against PayPal.
No.
Slight knock.
So after you have this information and you have your user stories, then you can start wireframing up your solution, and you can have a brainstorming session during the whole user story part of it. Now you have wireframes. In our last project, because we're a learning company, and we didn't review the wireframes with development first, and we went to mock-ups, and we're proceeding down that route, and then we realized that at the wireframe stage is when it should be reviewed with development, because they're going to say, actually, this is how this should work, because they have the technical mind, and they can make things far simpler for you, or catch the places that you haven't accounted for.
Yeah.
Then you can adjust your wireframes.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you review your wireframes, and then you go to mockups. So once you have mockups, back again you go to the customer, and you reach out to them saying, this is actually what it's looking like, have a conversation with them, get their feedback on it, and then, you can do another round on the mockups.
And so for tools we've been using is Envision. Envision just launched, in the last year, a wireframing tool.
Yeah, freehand.
Freehand, which actually that's confusing because there is, remember Macromedia Freehand?
No.
Oh. Wasn't that what it was called? It was like Adobe Illustrator. It was before Adobe Illustrator. There was Macromedia Freehand.
I wasn't a Macromedia
vector
guy except for Flash.
Yeah. All right.
Somebody
out there listening will know what I'm talking about. But okay, it doesn't matter. Freehand, I think, is dead anyway. But yes, Freehand I think it works great. I got to wireframe
so quick
something in it. Yeah. It's nice, and it's all online. It's all in the browser. You can then share it with people. So we like it for that. Envision has traditionally begun for clickable prototypes. So you design your interface, you upload the JPEGs or the PNGs, and then you start creating little hotspots so that it's, mimics what clicking through a website or a mobile app would feel like to a user. So we're still using it for that, and that's where I think you're talking about too. Once your designs are done, your high fidelity designs, put them in Envision into a clickable prototype, and then you can start showing them to team members, show them to users, maybe run them through user testing.
Yeah, and then get feedback. It's another round of feedback. So far, I think we're at 3 rounds of feedback for a feature, and we're only at mockups.
Yeah.
After you get your last round of feedback on the mockups, you should be fairly confident that what you're doing is going to solve the problem and is the best solution for it. Of course, every stage of the process, revisit the problem. Yeah. Is this solving the problem that you set out to solve? Mm-hmm. Once you get to this point, you've got your user stories. They've been completely edited and up to date, knowing about every step that this will affect the user and how they do it. You'll have wireframes to help illustrate, the technical steps between things. And then you have the mockups. You can actually see it and click through it. Now is a good time to take this feature packet and fully pass it on to development.
Yeah. And we've been using Google Docs. One Google Doc can contain all of this stuff. It can contain the research, the links to the prototypes, the links to the wireframe, customer quotes, competitive analysis. All this stuff can be in one Google Doc in one place, which is great because I think it's more powerful for a developer when they're building a feature instead of just looking at a mock-up or reading a function spec, is to look at the research behind it to understand why it was built that way and what people are actually saying and how it's going to impact their life.
Absolutely, and especially with a feature that's multiple phases, it's good to illustrate or communicate what the future is of where you're going, because when they're looking at it technically and they're building it, it's good if they can account for the future while they're building the present.
Yeah, sometimes a feature is so big that we call it an epic. I guess in Agile, that's more the appropriate term, where you wouldn't be able to just fit all of it in one ticket. It spans multiple tickets, but it's all about getting us here is going to require multiple passes, and you're going to need to build a little bit of product, release it, get feedback, and then keep building the rest of it.
Absolutely.
So then where does Basecamp come in all this?
Basecamp, due to its, project management capabilities of its to-dos, you're able to assign tasks and do your scheduling on when you want things complete, is used for this whole process that we've just been talking about. It's where you manage that. Because, you have to do customer outreach, you have to do your brainstorming, you have to do your wireframes. Well, create a Basecamp template for a project. You just create a new one, and then you have all your to-dos created and your scheduling set up. Then all you have to do is just start knocking off the items that are in there. Use the Google Doc because it's a nice, quick, dirty way of creating a document very quickly. They're not styled, they're not like market friendly, but they don't need to be. They're just about communicating what's needed in the future.
Yeah, and you can embed that link to the Google Doc right in Basecamp
and right in Jira.
So we've really just been using the schedule and the to-dos in Basecamp. And what I like about it is it's great for the designers working on the actual feature design, because you've got to-dos in there for your research stuff, all that upfront stuff we talked about. But then when it comes to marketing the feature, you can get your marketing team in there looking at when it's going to be launched, the reason behind it, the customer feedback around why it was built, and that And then you can start building in to-dos for like announcing the feature, creating the email, creating the blog post to talk about it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and customer support as well is to, once you have this project done and it's in development, you have so much information in there. You don't have to create a new briefing for marketing. Send them the Basecamp project. You don't need to create a new brief for customer support. Just send them the Basecamp.
Yeah.
It'll have all the information in there.
Yeah.
And they can craft all their materials from it.
And the great thing is that the way that this process works, the developers never have to really leave Jira.
Yeah. And that's important.
Other than looking at a Google Doc to get more information, but you can put a lot of the information in the Jira ticket, link to the packet. They don't have to go into Basecamp because their to-dos aren't being managed in Basecamp. They're being managed in Jira. They don't have to go into Product Board because you've already pulled all those customer insights into it. So we're pretty excited about this process.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird that we get excited about process?
Well, I just want to streamline, how we get work done, remove friction for both, product, marketing, development, support, and most importantly for our customers, delivering the right solutions. And it goes even further than that because in the past, since we weren't breaking things down and truly, documenting everything we were doing in a process, someone would ask for something and it was on the roadmap and we would say, okay, that's on the roadmap.
Yeah.
And then they would ask 2 months later, so what about that? Oh, it's on the roadmap. With this process, we're able to see our big rocks. We know the big rocks in and when they're going to be done. So then we have a better idea of when we can promise things to our customers.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things we're trying to tick off, remove. I don't know, the friction it causes when they don't know when something's going to be ready.
Right. I don't know, the anticipation or the, just feeling like they're in the dark.
Yeah. We want to turn the light on.
And we also, it's you never want your support people to kind of use just as a crutch the statement, it's coming, it's on the roadmap. Like, it's better for them to try to solve the problem now somehow through a workaround, through using a different tool for it, but to never kind of like just lean on, well, it's on the roadmap, it'll be launched eventually. Because it may not be for 2 years. I mean, we've had custom variables on our roadmap since 2014. But it was just never a big enough priority to get worked on. So it's quite an art. But,
it is quite an art, and as with any skill or talent, it has to be constantly worked on. So the things we've talked about today may change in 3 months, as you mentioned at the beginning of it.
They might.
You just got to constantly reiterate. I mean, if you listen to the podcast about onboarding, it's always the same thing.
Yeah.
Review, reiterate, change, make better.
Yes. We'll probably do a follow-up in 3 months or 6 months to talk about it again and talk about what's changed. So if you guys manage a product, I hope this is helpful. If you build product for clients, I'm sure you can use some of this stuff. I'd love to know what you think. You can email me at kyle@proposify.com with your questions or comments for a future episode. Thanks for joining us, and be sure you hit subscribe so you get more of this stuff. Thanks for listening.
Cheerio.
Thanks for listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racki. For more episodes, check us out on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Click subscribe to get updated on the latest episodes, and be sure to rate and review.